Good morning and welcome back to Rad BMX Builds. On this episode, we're taking a road trip from Newport Beach and we are heading down to San Diego, California, where we're gonna meet with an iconic freestyle pro rider by the name of Eddie Fiola. Maybe you've heard that name, maybe you've seen him in movies, but the dude is a legend and he's an all-around good guy. So I've spoken with Eddie in the past, we've hung out a little bit, and I asked him, would you like to do a YouTube video where we can sit down and just discuss some topics? But I'm not gonna ask the typical questions about back in the day. That's been covered over and over again. So I'm gonna go down there and talk to Eddie about maybe some non-traditional stuff, get his take on a few things that I'm doing and seeing what he's up to. And hopefully that makes us a good video. So let's get some coffee and start this road trip. Okay, and here we are pulling up to 602 Coffee. It's on the corner of 17th Street and Newport Boulevard. If you're ever in this area, I strongly recommend you stop in, say hi to them. We do follow each other on Instagram, so make sure you tell them that Rad BMX Builds sent you here because they have the best coffee.
Check this bike out. This is, I'm not a big fan of yellow, but maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I rode a bike kind of like this, but in a 20-inch. We're gonna modify it just a hair by putting one of these Fiola stickers on, and we're just looking for the right spot that this goes onto. And I think right here. Right about there. So the technique is always put the center on first and then work your way out so you don't get any air bubbles. And then it's perfect. And that's how you put on a sticker.
But I want to take the opportunity to sit down with Eddie and kind of discuss some things that may or may not have been covered in some other interviews. We don't want to rehash a whole lot of the past. If you're following this channel, you probably already know who Eddie Fiola is. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be with me and just answer some questions. I wanted to ask Eddie about the new bikes. You've had a chance to look at my 26 Pro Performer, which I turned into a world tour. And these are new bikes that big companies like Redline, Haro, GT are all doing, these retro style bikes. So I want to ask you, what is your take and your feelings and opinions on some of these new bikes?
So, I like the 26. I'm not a big fan of the 29s. I like that they are doing a new geometry and not using an old geometry that we used to have.
Yeah.
You know what we didn't know back then when we rode for GT, they just gave us a race bike and we rode what we had, and that's what we did. We didn't know the geometry or to make it better or worse. So when the new school kids came around and changed the geometry, it just made it better. So having a retro looking frame or a retro looking bike with the new geometry, it's just better. It's a better ride.
For sure. So I like you, believe in evolution and newer technology and better riding bikes. And as you get older, taller, heavier, whatever, I want comfort. And you get that, but I still want the nostalgic look of the bikes that we grew up with. And I feel like that's where they're kind of missing the mark. But that's where I'm trying to come in and fill that void of taking that product, but taking it to that next level of maybe where they should have gone with it, and they haven't.
I mean, that's what I did with my bike. Is I wanted an old school look, but I wanted the new school geometry.
Sure.
There was you know, people asking, how come you're not going with the original geometry? I'm going, there's a reason why there's an evolution, is that it's better, it works better this way. Some people like you know, an 18-inch top tube. Literally, GTs had an 18-inch top tube, maybe an 18 and a half. But we had to run a layback seat post in order to spin our handlebars around.
That's right.
Now we have a 21-inch head tube, top tube, and you know, it's almost too far back. So I mean, like the bikes that I made, the very first bikes that I made had a 21-inch geometry, but we moved the seat mast forward 1 inch.
Okay.
So if you stood on your bike and you put your feet on your pedals, the head tube, the bottom bracket, the rear dropouts, they're all the same as a 21-inch top tube. But as soon as you sit down, you feel that you're sitting a little bit closer, and your handlebar and your seat literally come close to contact. So I wanted to do one trick, and one trick only with my bike, and it was a quick spin. And it's something you can't do on other bikes unless the seat and the handlebars come close together and you can hang on to it. So
with one hand.
With one hand.
That's right.
But with the new geometry, it just rode better and smoother. And now we have I think, what is that?
Big helicopter flying over.
It might be the helicopter. It might be one of those other planes with the props.
Oh, the Osprey.
Yeah, the Osprey. We got a lot of Ospreys out here. You know, we're in the Top Gun area where, you know, Tom Cruise. Speaking of Tom Cruise, I am in a couple movies. You know, if you IMDb me, you will see how many movies I've actually been in. If you remember, or better yet, if you look up the Dixie Chicks and the music video called Ready to Run.
Okay.
They're riding BMX bikes.
Yes.
They are wearing wedding dresses.
You're in a wedding dress?
I am in a wedding dress riding a BMX bike as the small
Very nice.
Dixie chick. And my wife is actually riding, and she jumps over one of the cars.
Awesome.
So
that's so cool.
Back to Tom Cruise. Remember in, I think it was Mission Impossible 2, where he jumps from the helicopter to the train?
Right.
Yeah, I know that guy.
You know that guy.
It wasn't me.
Wasn't you. Yeah. Very cool. A lot of people don't realize that you did a lot of stunts. Basically, you're a stuntman.
Basically, I'm
Whether
a stuntman.
Whether it's on a bike or in a movie, you're a stuntman.
I've been shot, beat up, ran over by cars, thrown off buildings. I've done everything that you could possibly do in a movie with stunts, except for set on fire. Fire is not my gig. No.
I can do without that.
Yeah, I don't raise my hand when they say, hey, anybody want to do a fire gig? I have raised my hand to be doing the guy getting the car hit. You know,
sure.
I was on Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh, cool.
I was Tommy Two Feather, and I got hit by I think it was a full-size truck, GMC, lowered a little bit, but you have to trust the guy driving the truck.
Right.
Now, as he comes towards you, and you're running away, and then all of a sudden you have to run back towards it, he stabs the brakes, the front end dives down. He knows when to hit the brakes to make the front end lower so I can get up on top of the hood. Then he knows to gas it to keep me hovering on the windshield, and he knows exactly when to let off the brakes, and then I fall and literally fall right in front of camera.
Wow.
So
there's a whole thing there.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So in regards to some of these newer bikes, you created your own newer bike, the Fiola Former Pro. How many bikes did you make?
We made, so there's a whole series of I made bikes with Johnny True Torch through and here in the United States, in California, and we made 250 of those bikes, and they're all numbered. The frame's numbered, the fork's numbered, the handlebars are numbered.
Okay.
We not only did we make those bikes here in California, but we made them in Santa Ana, where GT was originated from. We also went to the exact same company that GT painted or powder coated their bikes, which is Olympic powder coating. We went as far as going to the same sticker manufacturer that GT used. We used the same box company GT used. Other than Gary Turner himself touching the bike or owning the building, my EF bike was more of a GT than GT ever was today. You know, the new GT is bought and sold a couple times and made in Taiwan and this and that. There's nothing wrong with Taiwan. It was just not GT's way of doing it. Eventually GT got smart and had to, you know, make some you know, financial planning and change their views. Anyhow, I had gone from the US made version here to an overseas version made through a company called Supercross, and they made the Legends bike, legendsbikeco.com, and with Bill Ryan, who is the the CEO, the manager, the guy that owns Supercross BMX. With him and his help, we were able to come up with this new style G or EF, and we had to change the name. I got a letter in the mail.
I'm not shocked.
I got a letter in the mail because GT said Proformer and Performer sound a lot alike. I'm going, you understand that the Performer in your Performer and your Performer bikes is named after me. I am the Performer, and this is it. This is why it's called the Performer. So if Proformer sounds too much alike, they have lawyers and they have this and
they have deep pockets.
Yes, so I don't. And so, but we found a way around it. So I literally cut my sticker in half. I took the Pro off and I took the Former and I switched the sides. It's Former Pro, and I'm a former Pro, so it works out.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
Former Pro. They also said something about the bike looking a lot like the Performer. Well, side by side, they don't look anything alike. We have new geometry. We're using thicker tubes. And not only are we using thicker tubes, but we're using double butted. So it's thicker on one side. It's an 049, 043 in the middle, and 049. So there's a lighter system of the bike, and it's still just as strong. We used a CAD design to make the bike on the computer and make sure everything works perfectly. We had made one prototype to where I tested it out, had made a little change, and send it back out, and to where this is the bikes that we have now.
Are you still making these?
They're in the process of being made. We, with all this COVID stuff that was going on, the cost of shipping and receiving, and the containers, and how many we need to build, it fell into a deeper realm of money. And today, I don't know if we have 100 on a container or none on a container. So.
Right.
That's just, I would like to come out with more bikes. I would love to, with more bikes out there, and we're definitely doing the 26-inch dirt jumpers.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility of doing a complete dirt jumper, but we'll figure it out.
What other kind of things do you have going on? Future plans? With your company. I know you have a book.
Somebody said, you should do a book, and there was a guy that I approached and said, hey, how come they're not going to do an interview with me or a book about me or a documentary about me? He says, well, you've never killed anybody. You've never been to jail. You don't have federal offenses. You're not a felon.
Prerequisites.
Yeah. You are not divorced. You still live with your wife. You have kids and you still own a home.
Yeah, that's not interesting.
Your story doesn't sell. So I never came out with a book. So, telling this to somebody else, he says, your story sells, it sells, let me tell it. So I have this guy, Billy Henrinkle, and he is taking all the information from me, he is writing it down, he is putting it into a book. We've gotten some magazine pictures from High Torque Publications, we've gotten some magazine covers from the internet. We are trying to put everything together in this book that you can find on Indiegogo. You just look up the Eddie Fiola book. It goes into my childhood and how I got into it and who I met throughout the years and while I was in high school and things like that. But it really does. We start to talk about the movie Rad, and we talk about, me doing movie work, where I've been on Walker, Texas Ranger, and The Hangover, and what's the other one? Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, bunch of different movies. Look it up on IMDb, you'll check it out.
Yeah. So, do you feel at times, like, when you meet people out in public, or people come to you the first time, is Rad all they know you for the most part? Because like me, I know you long before the movie Rad. I mean, this goes back to early days in Upland at Pipeline where I know you from, but I feel like you were put on a global map. Even though you toured with GT, those are just bike enthusiasts, but the movie, I hate to use this term, kind of made you famous. Yeah. Is that that's where most people come and remember you from?
So a lot of people, they recognize me mainly from, because I'm not seen a lot in the movie, because I'm doubling crew, and a lot of people recognize me from the magazines. You know, when we were kids, you know, we would, you know, at Bicycle Motocross Action, I would tear out photos. I would paste them on my wall.
Same.
and I got Harry Leary, I've got Stu Thompson, I've got Greg Hill, and they're plastered on my wall, and just the cool styles that these guys would have. And what's funny is that I've been approached and people have talked to me and going, hey, I had your picture on my wall from when I was, you know, 14, 15 until I was 18, until I got a car and a girlfriend, and then it all went to hell and a handbasket, you know. But that lifespan of them, you know, waking up every morning and going to bed every night, seeing our pictures on the wall, is like I would recognize Farrah Fawcett in a heartbeat.
Sure, yeah.
I would recognize any of the KISS members in a heartbeat. You know, only because
Are you saying you have a forgettable face?
Yeah, you know, I'm saying that
Those aren't true fans.
I am saying that I've been.
Yeah.
I was at IKEA and literally had nothing that said Fiola on it, nothing that said BMX, nothing that had anything to do with bicycles. And some guy came up to me and said,
"Oh, that's
you're
cool.
Eddie Fiola."
Wow, that's cool.
And I went to the wife. See, they know who I am. I'm somebody. It was like that one time, that first time I ever saw my name in, I think it was a Wikipedia. That's that moment. I'm somebody. I made it into Wikipedia.
Out of all the people you met over the years, that moment that you still remember is pretty great.
So I'm just another guy that rides a bike. I love riding my bike, and I'll go up to anybody that's, you know, has a problem with their bike and try to help them out. We normally now, as an older person, I don't want to say an adult.
Persons, stuck in, you know, children's mentality,
right?
Young man's mentality.
We go to the pump track and I'll see kids there that aren't getting it, and I'll go over there and I'll mention, hey, if you do this, it will help your style. It'll help you go faster. You don't need to pedal. It's like, and I have to give them an example of like swinging on a swing set. It's like you kick your legs at a certain point in time, you go somewhere on the swing set. But if you don't kick at the right time, you don't go anywhere. So this is the same thing on the pump track. It's pushing down and coming up and pushing down. You get this, and it's an aha moment. It's literally, you feel it, and you just felt speed come along, and without pedaling, you just all of a sudden you're going somewhere. So, like I said,
what is a day in the life of Eddie Fiola now? Like when you wake up in the morning, what time do you normally wake up? What do you do during the day?
Let's say about a year ago, I got up when I wanted.
Yeah.
Only because I've done enough movies, and I've worked on so many films that I get a residual base check. Now, sometimes it's 3 cents, sometimes it's $100, sometimes it's $1,000. Well, these checks come in, you know, periodically throughout the year, you know, where I'm making 50, 60 grand, not doing anything. But the stuff I did before, that's the money I've done. So now I'm hanging out with a friend that owns an automotive shop, and he says, hey, come out and we'll pay you some money. You can tear stuff apart. I was tearing stuff apart anyhow.
So you're a very mechanical guy who wants to stay busy.
I want to stay busy. You know what they say about idle hands.
That's right.
It's bad stuff, right? I don't drink. I don't smoke.
Right.
I don't know. What else is there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Gamble.
No, don't gamble.
Right.
You know, I gamble. I go to the ATM machine. There's money.
That's right. I lose every time.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but you know, I like tearing things apart. I like welding. I'm not the proficient welder. I can make stuff stick together. I'm working on making it cleaner and prettier. There are definitely people who are better than I am. But if you come to this shop out in San Diego, across the street from Reno, Top Gun, Miramar.
Yeah.
You know, the company is called FMG, and this guy works on custom cars, stock cars. We do brake jobs, do head jobs, do paint color, everything you could possibly think of, this shop has.
I think people probably have an image or an idea of what they think of you, and that is like, he probably still rides his bike every day. They don't know that you're in off-roading.
Oh yeah.
They don't know that you have a trail bike or a side-by-side, or you go out to maybe Glamis or wherever you go, but they don't know that side of Eddie Fiola. You know, you're happily married, you still show up on a bike every now and then, but you might have an old dirt bike in the bed of your truck like you do now outside.
Yeah, so
there's a whole part of you, a whole life of you that I don't think people have insight to.
Well, a lot of people don't know that, you know, like in the very beginning, I mean, I'd rather gone into the motocross racing.
Me too.
But our parents, my parents, didn't have enough money, and my dad had passed away early on in my childhood. So, you know, having a dirt bike was not even a question. So I rode a bike and loved riding bicycles. But then once I got the opportunity to buy a bike, then I started riding motorcycles and you know, I did shows for Gail Webb, who Gail was actually sponsored by Kawasaki and Honda and Malcolm Smith and all these other companies, to where when she was done riding the bike, or it was part of her sponsorship, where when she was done, she could sell it, and the money that she got was her sponsorship money.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, she didn't make a whole lot of money sponsorship-wise because I'd buy the bike.
Got the friend discount.
Yeah, I got the friend discount.
It's not very profitable for her.
Yeah, but she knew where the bike was going, and it was all so anyhow, I have a 2009 KXF 250F.
Nice.
And I'm looking for people out there.
Oh, here's a plug. What is it?
I am looking for a KX 450.
Ooh.
2021. So the 22s, they didn't change, so the 21s are a little bit cheaper. The 19 and 20, they had to change the clutch bearing. So the 21 is all the upgrades and all the extra stuff without the 22 price. So, and what I've heard, that's what I heard. I don't know if it's real or not, or how long it's going to stick for. But if you register a 21, you can use that 21 off-road. If you register a 22, you can only ride it at a track.
Really?
Yeah. So, unless you're in Texas.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that a California thing?
Just a California thing.
Okay,
just
good.
California. Don't worry about
California problems.
Yeah.
The rest of the states cannot worry about that.
But, you know, the companies that I work closely with is the, you know, Rad Designs, 1986, and they carry all the T-shirts, the hats, the stickers. So if you ever want to look at stuff that we're selling, that Kid takes care of, and his wife, Mindy, you know, it's a great thing. And I also want to thank my wife, Mindy, and my daughter, Audrey, to let me come and play here and work and situate things, you know. And when I need to be at a cheerleading tournament for my daughter, he lets me go and do that. So
awesome.
It's a working process that everybody works together on, so it works for me.
So last thing I wanted to let people know about is some of the evolution of the older bikes. You had a key role in helping formulate the ideas which went into production. Things like the POTS mod bolt, the downward tube, the bend in a GT Performer, the dyno pretzel bars. Can you shed a little light on some of the things you helped develop with some ideas through trial and error?
Yeah, so, I mean, in the very beginning, like I said, is that we had a GT Mach 1 Pro Series race frame, and that's what they gave us. There wasn't a freestyle frame out there other than the Torker that was out there and the Haro that was made literally right after the Torker. And as I was sponsored for one day for Haro, we'll go into that later, the next podcast.
Video,
Yeah. So, the POTS mod, I was at the Bicycle Source with a bunch of other guys, and we're not trying to figure anything out. We just had suggestions, and I had mentioned, while there was a guy that was a machinist, his name was Steve Potts. He was Mike Buff's brother.
Okay.
So I had mentioned that if there was a way, somehow, some way that we can get our front brake cable to go through the center bolts of our gooseneck, it would help out so much, because we can have a big slack, you know, on our rear brake, and we could switch things around.
So you'd run a rear brake cable on the front brake to have the longer cable to spin the bars.
Right. And then, so the POTS mod came out, and that's what we did. Then Brian Skura designed a gyro system that went to the outside and was able to spin around, so we could spin the bars all the way around.
Sure.
Well, with that being said, we were still using MX-1000 brakes.
Yep.
You know, so you had a high caliper clearance problem. And that clearance problem and this is where I figured it out, was a Redline, an older Redline, not a box series, but an older Redline, that the bottom tube came up to the top of the head tube, and then they put that brace that came straight across. Well, the MX-1000 brake caliper would flex would pass right by. As long as you didn't have too long of a tail on your brake cable.
Yep.
It would pass right by. So we went to Gary Turner and said, hey, can we do a couple changes on this race bike to make it a freestyle bike? One was me putting that bend in, and so we can get some clearance so that we can turn the handlebars all the way around. And Bob Morales at that time had mentioned, you know, he liked the double top tube on the Torquer.
Yeah.
And on the new Haro bike, it was easier to do a frame stand.
Sure.
Well, so Gary made a design, and we wrapped around the very top, and we showed Gary where we position our feet, and he put a platform up there, and that's literally how the Performer happened. And that's it. That's all she wrote. And GT made $1 billion off of our design. And if it wasn't for Martin and myself,
yeah,
GT wouldn't make. You know, they sold some bikes, they sold some race bikes, and they did this and they did that. But they sold a lot more when Martin and I came aboard. And you know, we got compensated, but not nearly as much as they got compensated.
Sure.
You know,
maybe a little uneven.
Yeah, man.
Maybe
you know,
a little. Just
so hey, if the guys at GT just want to throw me a bone, you know, of a new Lexus or whatever,
couple matching Lexus,
new motorcycle,
a percentage.
A percentage. Hey, did you see this yellow 26? It's beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Right, and because you guys at GT didn't make this, you know,
I have to.
Yeah, he has to, and you know what? It's beautiful, and you can't find this bike unless you build it yourself. You can't find this bike in its shape, form, and prestige, togetherness. I mean, like, there's not a scratch on this frame. Everything's hand tightened and torqued to spec, and it's beautiful. You know, if he ever decides to sell it, I get first choice.
You get first choice.
I get first choice.
You get dibs.
I get dibs. You know,
we'll talk off camera.
Yeah.
You got dibs though.
So,
it's not for sale.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, it's been on Instagram. I know, but
everything has a price. Everything has a price.
That's
I'm just saying.
Not true.
Right.
Everything does have a price, but we'll talk. So I guess the last thing I have for Eddie is, first of all, thank you for everything.
Yeah, no worries.
I appreciate the growing friendship that you and I have, and getting the opportunity to hang out with you every now and then. And I hope we get to continue something like this, whether it's here in San Diego, Temecula, to Pump Track, Huntington Beach.
HB Tuesdays.
HB Tuesdays. I haven't been there in a little while.
I now have drawn it back a little bit. I have to reel it back because of the gas prices.
They're all over the place.
I'm out in Temecula area, so I can't drive to Huntington Beach every Tuesday.
Right.
So I try to now make it every first Tuesday of the month.
If you don't live in California, these places are not close.
Yeah.
So I live in Newport. Coming to San Diego sounds close. It's not. So all these
hour and a half.
That's far from
2 hours in traffic.
It's farther than you can ride your bike today.
Yes, it is. Yes. Remember when we were kids, we just got on our bikes and we took off?
Yes.
And our parents had no idea where we were.
No, as long as you're home for dinner. Yeah, they don't care.
The street lights are on, we're home.
Yeah, no cell phones, nothing to get a hold of you. Just don't die.
Yeah, right?
That was pretty much the rules I had. Don't die.
If you wanted to find out where we were, you drive down the street and you find out where all the bikes are in the front yard.
Look for the pile of bikes.
Yeah, that's where we were.
Or the arcade.
Yeah.
Getting your bike stolen.
Right. I've known more people getting their bike stolen from the arcade, playing video games.
Yeah.
So I never left my bike out of sight. I always had it in my head, in my sights.
Just once, that's all it takes.
Yep.
Yeah. There went my red line. But so I want to close this by saying, if you don't have his book, please get it. Get his book. Check out the website. What is it again?
The website is, right now it's on Indiegogo.
Okay.
You can go to Indiegogo and just type in Eddie Fiola, and it's going to pop up with a book.
What about merch for you? So
you can go to Rad Designs 1986 here in San Diego, and we have a bunch of merch. We have shirts. We got
awesome.
We don't have any underwear. We don't have any socks or anything like that. But some basic stuff, hats and stickers and things like that. So anyhow, we're coming out with some wallets, which is kind of cool.
Awesome.
We just got a new laser etcher cutter type deal, and when the Indiegogo deal is done, then we will have the merch available here at Rad Designs 1986. So.
And if you need any Rad BMX Builds merch, it's radbmxbuilds.com/store for shirts, hats, hoodies, stickers, whatever you need, go over there. And if you want to buy a bike from me, it's also on the website. It's the only way you can buy a bike. I don't sell through Instagram. So again, radbmxbuilds.com/store. Eddie, thank you so much for your time.
I'm selling this Pepsi can. $1 million.
Everything's got a price.
Everything's got a price. There's somebody out there.
Eddie drank out of that, you know. I'm sure someone will want it.
That's Martin's now.
All right, so thanks again, and I look forward to next time.
No worries. You go that way, I'll go this way.
All right, sounds good. I hope you enjoyed that video and meeting up with Eddie Fiola, talking to him about what his current things are and what the future things are. If you like videos like this and you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. And if you want me to keep doing videos like this, I drop them every Friday, so stick around. Plenty more to come. But as always, stay rad.